Good morning. Yes, morning, everybody. This is the Midweek Hello. A little bit later because it has already been such an unbelievably full week with so many meetings and calls and discussions that have actually been very exciting. So I thought I would use this video to get you a little bit up to date on that, and also to really, really encourage you to, no kidding, really actually read the newsletter because it's full of information, and it might answer some of the questions that I'm certainly hearing from folks. So lots of curiosity from folks I know interested in, are we reopening? And this is, again, one of those things where the governor and the Commonwealth didn't really do us a whole lot of favors in creating a perception that, like, oh, now we can just open the doors and, maybe wear masks, but it'll be fine. No. There was clearly political pressure involved in declaring churches on that sort of first wave of things that could open list, because it's really hard to make it actually make sense. We're now seeing some of those, a parallel thing happening with the schools, which is, yes, you can open up the schools, but you have to buy all of your own PPE equipment and you can have no more than 10 people in a classroom. Well, for most of our school districts, that's just not even near feasible. So we have a similar kind of situation with our churches. Thankfully, the bishops of both Eastern and Western dioceses in Massachusetts have gotten together teams, our deans with epidemiologists and people who are putting together what it would look like to be able to meet again for in-person worship. And that's a phased structure similar to that of the state. And for now, we have our own group, mostly vestry, working on what that would mean at St. Paul's, because a lot of this depends on what the transmission and infection rates are in your particular community, what the layout is of each church in terms of square footage, in terms of, does your air circulate? Do you have an HVAC? Do you have pews or do you have chairs that can be moved around? What is your outdoor space like? So no two churches are alike. So as we clergy keep hearing from Bishop Doug, it has to be particular and it has to fit and make sense for your space and your community. So what I can tell you right now is that still nothing happens before July 1st. Even if, the disease were to just totally evaporate tomorrow. We're not doing anything together in person until July 1st at the earliest. Then and only then will, deanery by deanery, we decide, working with an epidemiologist, whether or not we can move to church phase 2. It may not be. Church phase 2 requires, 14 days of decreasing new cases. So that means, that has to be a steady and consistent downward trend in cases. If that's not reached, then we don't move forward. So once we do that, then we're talking about maintaining social distancing with masks inside, if we choose to do that. There will be no singing. There will be no communion. There will be no prayer books. There will be basically nothing that you can touch, and anything that you can touch will have to be sanitized thoroughly between each service, with some period of days in between. So we are not doing this conveyor belt style. It would be one small service for a few people, and perhaps then video broadcasted out in some form or format. It's not going to look or feel like any church you've ever been to for a really long time. I really want you and need you to understand that. The first time we will be able to do communion, it will be bread only. And we cannot do that until we hit 0 new cases for some period of time. 0 is really, really far from where we're at now. So we are talking likely a long matter of months before we're doing communion again. So I know there's all kinds of feelings that go with that. All of those feelings are fine, big, true, uncomfortable, and they're real. And God sees them, and that's fine. But they don't change what the guidelines are. So then we just yesterday got a whole pack of new and more detailed guidelines that our committee will be working to digest and make sense of. And we will, from those, begin to put together a plan for how we might even partially meet together for worship sometime in the next couple of months. It's exciting. There's a lot of creativity going into that. There's also just an immense amount of detail to digest. So one of the things that I and the bishop have been stressing is, we cannot be thinking of this as how do we get back to church and how do we get back to normal? Because otherwise we're just setting ourselves up for a lot of frustration and heartbreak. What we're doing is creating a plan to make it possible for us to meet together in some form as the people of God for worship. And as long as we understand that we're operating under extraordinary circumstances, which means things are going to look extraordinarily weird, then I think we'll be okay. But if, the whole question is how do we get back and make everything normal again? Churches can't make that happen any faster than restaurants, schools, nursing homes, public transportation, or food service, or any other sector of how our society runs. So I guess I'm asking you to, yes, I know how important church is, but we don't operate outside of the same reality that everybody else is working with. So that's the most I can tell you on that. I think this is something for prayer and sitting with and, owning our own feelings about. We really want it to be this way. We really want it to be that way. We really want it to happen in this time frame. There's a couple of couples who've been trying to get married, and they're having to ride this uncertainty as well. So that's all real. And nothing anybody says or wants really changes that. So that's just kind of a hard thing that we're dealing with. Now, on the other hand, all kinds of interesting things are happening. So this week, our vestry got to spend time with Bishop Doug and Rich Simpson, canon, and have some really great conversations. About reopening and some of the challenges we're facing in that. But then also some really amazing discussion about what does it mean to be God's people when we're considering the legacy of 400 years of racial oppression? What does it mean to be God's people in the midst of a pandemic when we can't just gather and hug each other? What does it mean to be God's people in a city where race and racism have been enormous challenges and places of enormous hurt for a really long time and in complex and particular ways? So I am getting to watch St. Paul's folks just step up to enormous challenges with this incredible honesty of honesty of heart, honesty of feeling, honesty of thought, of not knowing, of willingness to learn, willingness to be stretched, to grow. And it's, after however many weeks of this sort of grinding and exhausting state of limbo that we've been in, I have to say, as challenging, as painful, as difficult as many of these conversations are, getting to watch people rise to the occasion to bring their highest and best selves, to move and to learn and to question out of a sense of their connection to God and their connection to this community. Nothing short of inspiring. I mean, it is doing my heart so much good. I can't wait to get to a place where they're going to be able to start sharing the fruits of their labors with you. Coming up this week, watch the Friday newsletter, because the Sunday video is a conversation between me and Bishop Doug. He's doing a reflection. We had minimal but some technical difficulties, as you might imagine. So that'll be kind of a fun, different treat for the Sunday video, which will come out Friday. Also in the newsletter will be a survey, and it should be painfully easy. If you can click on your newsletter, you can click through this survey. So we are going to be asking you what your kinds of engagement have been with church stuff and online, and to spell out some more of the particulars of especially phases 2 and to some extent phase 3, and how you see yourself interacting within these very strange and strict parameters that we've been given to play within. So it's a bit of an imagination exercise, and then we're really looking for your honest feedback about what would appeal to you. For a lot of people, phase 2 feels so much not like church that they're not interested. But maybe some of you are. I mean, so that's what we're trying to figure out. We're trying to figure out what's going to be most helpful, what is speaking the most to your spirits, and so on. So with that, I think the vestry is going to be doing another round of calls, and seeking your input. So if you can, please do check your email for the newsletter this week, and follow the link through to the survey. That's going to be enormously helpful to our folks in trying to formulate what the next however many months looks like. Because I think that's really, minimally we're talking about months. Other denominations have put, dates out. The Unitarians aren't going to meet in their churches until May of 2021. So basically a year. So this is the span. I think the Lutherans have put some date into fall. So we're all trying our best here. We're trying to do it a little more smaller region by smaller region. So, deanery by deanery. So that's not as satisfying an answer about when are we reopening and what's it going to look like. But that's a question that's going to depend on a lot of external circumstances that we can neither control nor predict. And it's a set of answers that requires your input. So please do, find a way to do that. I think we will be mailing out the survey along with the newsletter next week after it's all put together. And if you've been receiving things that way, that's how you'll receive those, which also, now that I think about it, probably means you wouldn't be watching this video. But we're trying to work all the angles. So those surveys will go out. Other than that, I think that's sort of like the big updates. And I know, point of curiosity, I've enjoyed hearing from you and your questions and your offers to help. So I appreciate you in all of that. Other than that, beautiful rain is happening outside right now. And my hair is even curlier and frizzier than it seems to be getting during this fascinating pandemic time. So enjoy this strange experience of humidity. I don't personally find it comfortable, but I am finding, I think, a new attitude or a new flexibility for small discomforts in this life, like excessive humidity. From this experience, I'm hoping that is some kind of, spiritual gift to come out of this. That's what I've got for you all. Again, please do reach out, call, text, email. I did get a very interesting conspiracy theory email, which I'm not sure if I should click on the link, but there's all kinds of interesting things coming our way these days. So we are riding the waves together, and we're not doing it alone. So we have God's Spirit and we have God's help. So know that you're in my prayers. Know that you have a vestry that is so enormously capable and caretaking and caregiving and capable of rising to these many challenges and these difficult days. So all my love, take good care, and we'll talk soon.